Hello. Yes, I'm live. It tells me that I'm live. Welcome along. I know that if you are seeing this, or if you've got yourself your notification through, you are wondering what on earth we're doing, having a notification happening on a Saturday. It's because we're having one of our incidental episodes, our one-off drop-in shows, which is great when we get the chance to talk to somebody outside of our normal kind of arrangement, which is fantastic. We're going to try and do a couple more of these over the course of 2021. We've got a bunch of people that are wanting to talk to us about projects going into next year. As always, if there's anybody that you want us to talk to in particular, let us know. We'll pester them on social media, as is my want. I like to kind of just jump in on Twitter and just kind of harass people until they turn around and give in and say yes. But thankfully, Pete, everyone who has been agreeing to come on the show has been very gracious with their time. They have either been able to come on the Sunday shows, or they've been able to arrange something with our incidental episodes. So we try and fit in as many as we possibly can. If there's anybody you want us to talk to, do let us know, and we'll do what we can to get them on the show. The next guest, or the guest that we've got on for today, is actually somebody that's been kind of brought to me, and I'm really glad, because heaven knows this person has not only had a fantastic couple of years, but it looks like 2021 is going to be something pretty damn special. Hello there, everybody. Welcome along to Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Len Sultana, and each and every Sunday we talk Comic-Cons, con culture, and all the stuff and nonsense we get to enjoy at such shows. If this is your first time watching this, thank you very much indeed for coming along. Perhaps you've fallen across it on our various social medias. We're showing this on Twitter, we're showing this on Facebook, we're showing this on Twitch, of all things. I mean, I think I have an audience of a dog on a string over there, but thank you very much indeed for coming along. If you are watching on Twitch, watching on Periscope as well, if wherever you're coming along from, hit the notifications, hit the subscribe, and of course hit comments. Let us know what you're thinking today, what you'd like to talk about, especially when it comes to our special guest for today. This is somebody who, like I said just before we came on air, has had an amazing year. I've been following a number of the books that she's been doing over the course of 2020, but what she's got planned for next year and what she's currently got on her plate is pretty damn impressive. It's a pleasure to welcome Stephanie Phillips to the show. How the devil are you, Stephanie?
Hey, great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I'm doing all right.
It's a pleasure. Like I say, the show is usually about Comic-Cons and con culture. We kind of talk about all the updates and the news of shows that are happening. Obviously, in 2020, those are few and far between, if at all. But we usually start with 3 questions, and we'll find out a little bit more about your Comic-Con history, as it were. First things first, it is a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. Do you have a cup of tea to hand? What's your beverage of choice? Have you got something to hand, or are you winging it today?
I'm a pretty big coffee drinker. I'm pretty addicted to the stuff, but I do switch it up and drink quite a bit of black tea as well.
Excellent stuff. I'm on the PG tips today, so yes, I've definitely needed it because today has been putting up of Christmas decorations day, which has been frustrating the hell out of me, considering that we've lost power packs, we've lost. I've got a whole bunch of new drawing pins, all of which bent by the time I was pushing into the wall. So I'm looking forward to this. This is my oasis for the next 45 or whatever. Question number 2 that we've been asking is, can you remember your first Comic-Con, the one that you first remember attending, and do you remember going as a pro or as a fan?
I went as a fan. I went in high school to MegaCon Orlando. That was my first comic convention ever, and I think we took the shuttle from, I knew somebody that worked at the convention, and so he got us special passes. I remember taking the shuttle from the hotel to the convention, and there were just like a fleet of stormtroopers on the bus. And I was just like, what is this magical thing that I have walked into? How could this thing have existed in my life? And I just didn't know. So I pretty much fell pretty hard in love with that after that. Before I even walked in the building, I was like, this is so cool.
That's a great introduction. That's the way into it. When you start getting hit by the bug before you even walk through the door, that's something else. I've heard good things about MegaCon. I've heard that it is a really nice, friendly kind of event. So no, that's a good one to get started with. And number 3 of the questions, obviously, as somebody who is very much established now in the world of comics, you do get the chance to go to cons, and you do get the chance every once in a while to bump into those idols that have influenced you over the years. Those ones that do leave you a little bit cotton-mouthed and weak at the knees, perhaps. Can you remember any of your meeting of your heroes moments?
I got to meet Frank Miller at a DC event, I think maybe 2 years ago in New York Comic Con. And I just turned around from the bar and Frank Miller was just behind me. And it was just a moment, we got to kind of say hi and somebody introduced me. And I know he does not remember a single thing about this and will never. And that's fine. But it was, for me, it was really cool. It was like, I'm not just standing in the same room, but in the same little tiny bubble, and he's talking to me. So that was cool.
Just thank goodness it was not in the 1980s. When a story starts with the phrase, I was standing at a bar and Frank Miller was behind me, that's usually the start of some epic journey around New York, or you're losing, waking up in another continent or something. So that's pretty cool. Everyone on this corner, or everyone on this podcast, knows my Frank Miller story, so I'm not going to go into too much of it. But basically, I hosted Frank Miller at MCM Comic Con a couple of years ago, and I had my brain leave. Step 5 foot to the right moment, and I lost my train of thought for a while. But there we go. Excellent stuff. For those people who perhaps aren't too familiar with your work, and heaven knows we're going to try and cover as much as we possibly can, certainly the more recent stuff, because I've got some screen caps of books which have really caught my attention over the last couple of years. Perhaps you can give a little bit of a pocket introduction to yourself. Certainly, how you got into writing comics as a genre. Was it something that you started straight away? Was it comics predominantly, or where was your writing history?
Yeah, I always loved comics, but I don't think I ever knew making a comic as a job. That just I don't think a lot of I don't know that a lot of people that pick them up really think about that. And I was just talking to, I have a cousin who's in 5th grade, and I talked to his class over Zoom the other day. And it was kind of interesting where they were like, people make these? It's like, yeah, that's how they're out in the world. But I totally understand that question, having kind of been on the other side of I never considered that as a career. I went to graduate school I got my master's in English, and then I went on to do my PhD in rhetoric and writing, and I was doing academic publications. And at some point, I just I was like, well, I've been on the track to be like a professor for a really long time, and I'm not sure that's what I want to do. So like at this point in time, I've taught for like 9 years. And I just, I don't know, I was just kind of like, maybe I don't want to do academic writing. There was a lot of kind of burnout feeling, and I started going to conventions again. Like I kind of picked that up, and yeah, I was interested, I think, initially in video game writing, and I wanted to work in the video game sphere of some kind. And then I just kind of fell in with, you know, a group of really great creators that were like, why aren't you writing comics? And I was like, well, nobody's asked me that question. It's like, you know, I think a lot of people wait for permission to do that kind of thing. And, you know, somebody was like, you don't need that permission, just go do it. So I, you know, hired an artist to help me do like a short pitch, and I hired a couple, did a few different pitches, and kind of went on to make all of those. One of those was Devil Within, which I published through Black Mask. Another was Kicking Ice, which I kickstarted with Jamie Jones. So yeah, I think those were like my earliest kind of forays into comics, and then from there kind of spun out.
You're saying falling into it, but it sounds like you kind of, you fell head first. I mean, going full into Kickstarter. I mean, the fact that when it came to putting together a pitch, you went all ahead and got an artist involved. You kind of got those pages up and running. Because when I hear about writers breaking into the industry or making that introduction, I think a lot of editors and a lot of companies, they want to see that you can actually kind of do a finished page. It's not just a case of just putting words down onto the page. It is a case of constructing a comic to flow with, in terms of the balance between art and the dialogue and whatever else you need to do, and the story that you need to tell on the page. And the fact that you actually got an artist and commissioned them to actually put a page together is that's an interesting story to take.
Yeah, I think it was, you know, a couple artists were like, you have to make a comic to make comics, which, you know, initially was like, what is this riddle that you are saying? Like, this makes no sense. But it's like, no, it actually kind of did make sense in the end. It was like, well, I have to prove that I can do this before somebody will hire me to do it. So,
Sure.
You know, I was lucky. I was in grad school at the time, but I was also working. So along with teaching, I was I was coaching at a Muay Thai gym, and I used pretty much all the money from Muay Thai coaching to pay an artist. So I kind of saved up for a while, and then I was like, all right, now I'm ready to kind of bring this artist on. I brought Manhouse in to do, I think we did like maybe 10 pages of the first issue of Devil Within, and then we started pitching it. We actually had interest from more than one company, and we got to kind of pick where we placed that. And then, you know, Man and I finished the full series together. So that was really exciting.
Excellent stuff. Skipping forward a little bit, I mean, the reason why we have been connected, when I said at the beginning before my intro, we've been match met, as it were, in this regard, and this has been put together by Heavy Metal Magazine, because you are involved in putting a new rendition of Tana up on the screen. Let's have you on there as well. Tana, the last Takari. You've been teamed up with Patch Zercher, and also with Marcello Izzoli on colors. This is a very striking character to take on. I remember watching Heavy Metal, and it is the final chapter of the film. And it was a hell of a note for the film to finish on, but it is very much a boy's own fantasy of that kind of strong. When you ask a weightlifter what a strong woman is, it's Tana. It's lots of muscles and kind of not talking a great deal. Well, mute, in fact. Which kind of begs the question then, what drew you to Tana, or how did you get involved into the character? What was your introduction to her world?
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with the movie, and like I'll admit, I don't know that like when I was first introduced to the movie, I'm not sure I saw it all the way through, which you can imagine as like a
I don't
female.
think I did. I think I saw it over. I don't think anyone has. I think everyone saw it over like a 3-year period. They just kind of like caught it on.
And I feel like everybody has different memories of it, so maybe we all watch something
Oh,
different.
it's definitely a fever dream. Oh yeah.
That's exactly what it is. So when I was offered, the chance to write Tarna, I went and I rewatched the movie from beginning to end, and there's definitely some like different memories in my head of like. I think in my head I was like, oh man, Tarna is this really strong, cool like warrior figure, and I'm watching, the movie, and I'm just like, and she's tied up a lot, and like there's definitely like very little female involvement in this character's development. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to be involved, which was like how I think the character does have that potential, and I'm not knocking the original or anything like that. I think our version really does build from that. I think, my take on it, and, I've still had these questions, which is, looking at the outfit she's wearing, how can I bring a feminist perspective? And honestly, I just think it's like, how amazing does this character have to be that she's staring down entire universes and dying stars and like cosmic entities filled with chaos, and it doesn't matter what she's wearing because she's not actually a woman. She's an entire embodiment of a universe. So there really isn't a sexuality to Tarna. And I think that maybe wasn't portrayed all the way because of the initial audience for the movie, which I understand the reception, but I wanted to take that and say like, wait a minute, she doesn't have sexuality. She can stare down gods butt naked and she's still amazing because that doesn't enter into her head. So whether she is completely clothed or not doesn't actually matter to Tarna. She can change her shape, she can change her appearance, because she cosmic entity, which is actually, I think, really cool. And then one of the awesome things that I got to do with Tarna as well is later design more of like a battle armor type look for Tarna, which I'm really excited about. So we do get to kind of change up and play with the costume a bit as well. So I've really enjoyed writing her.
Sure. I mean, certainly thinking of when I remember seeing the film, and certainly thinking back of it after years gone by, it's the same kind of approach that I think of when someone mentions about strong female characters in Chris Achilleos's artwork. Okay, yes, they're strong and they're female, but they're not what we in 2020 would the term strong and female. It's a slightly different take on it. The story itself in the film, the one thing it did do is have this really grand, epic. Certainly, like you say, the ability for her to transform and to embody, and also to transmute into other people. In the small girl at the end, in the epilogue. At which point then do you have to kind of make? I mean, you talk about Tarna as a slightly more. You mentioned there's more ephemeral. It's more of a like you say, the embodiment of a universe, as it were. But you do have to kind of solidify that at points. You have to make that a very distinct character. What was your take on her as a character then, in terms of what her drives were? Because they weren't exactly nailed down in the film.
Right. No, I agree with that. So one of the things that I wanted to do was give her something to contrast. So what do you do with a figure that is really this like cosmic entity that really we don't know the limits of her? And my thought was, let's find those limits. Let's test them. What is the limit of this character's power? And what is it like to have the weight of an entire universe on your shoulders? Not just one planet. She's responsible for thousands of planets. Thousands of creatures and people. So one of the things I did was give her this kind of partner figure, a woman from a city that she saves ends up kind of hitchhiking with Tarna, and it becomes this real contrast where this woman is like trying to figure out what is Tarna. And we get to kind of see Tarna through her eyes, but it also tests a little bit of like, Tarna now has somebody that cares about her, which in Tarna's life she's never had. So she's kind of developing this bond with somebody that is unusual for Tarna, because like, if you're this cosmic entity, like who watches over you kind of thing, but in a nice way, like, you know, you don't really have friends, you have charges. You have things that you are responsible for keeping alive. And so when she has somebody that's actually concerned for her well-being, this becomes a little bit unusual, something Tarna's not used to. So it kind of creates a cool relationship between those two characters. And I really enjoyed kind of seeing that grow, and also finding ways to test the limits of Tarna's abilities. So I don't want her to be completely impervious to everything in the universe. So we want to find, okay, what is that limit? You know, she can't be in every single place at once. So sometimes it becomes like a trolley problem where Tarna has to make decisions and they're not always the right decisions. So, you know, we see entire civilizations of people that are like, okay, you saved us from the sun exploding, but now we need medicine, we need food and all these things. And Tarna's like, can't help you, bye. And it's not because she's a jerk. It's because, like, you know, she's concerned with making sure the sun doesn't explode. Like, there are different levels of problems in Tarna's life, and we're kind of seeing how she deals with the different variations of those problems, the different levels, and kind of how a godlike creature has to make these decisions. And I think that was the interesting part about kind of testing that limit. Like, she is not saving every single person and solving every single problem because she physically can't. And that takes a toll on it would take a toll on anyone, but it really does take a toll on somebody that's really empathic in the way that I think Tarna is.
Yeah. I haven't read the book yet. Well, obviously, it's on its way. It's imminent. But I mean, when I mentioned Chris Achilleos and when I mentioned the original film, it's very much built around a 1980s sensibility. It's non-more metal. I mean, when it's off the pages of heavy metal, it's non-more metal. But the way you're describing the character and the way you're talking about the evolution of the story and what you're wanting to bring to it, you're very much talking about a very much more contemporary 2020s kind of sensibility when it comes to the approach of character, the approach of story. What was the balance that you wanted to try and achieve between that original take of Tarna and the original kernel of the idea, that real kind of 1980s, you know, kind of vibe to it, and then the kind of the very much more contemporary, introspective deconstruction of a character? I mean, there are some stories which can hold up without so much deconstruction and just drive through story, as it were, or drive through energy. And that's what that's what the original film was, or that original idea was. This is a real kind of arc between the two. Whereabouts on the spectrum would you say you're trying to hit?
I mean, she's got a giant sword. I like swords.
Exactly, yeah.
I wanted to give her something to beat up. You know, I wanted it to be really heavily action-packed. I think one of the things as a writer I haven't really had a chance to do before Tarna was do something that I would describe as just really cosmic, like giant epic battles. A lot of what I write is really grounded, like historical fiction or, you know, kind of like a slice of life type of thing. Tarna's on a whole different scale. And I was like, if I'm going to do this character, and, you know, I definitely told Joe Illidge, our editor, when he brought me on board, I was like, I'm definitely looking for a story that will let her just beat the crap out of giant monsters. Like, I want all of the other elements. I want to think really heavily about how I'm constructing her character, but I also want giant monsters. Like, she's got a cool sword. She's going to have some battle armor. Like, I want it to be awesome and metal, like you said. So Patrick Zercher, the artist, the first two issues, we spent some time kind of developing these old cosmic creatures that are unleashed in the first issue, and there's 3 of them, and Tarna has to track down these entities, and each one has a special ability. So you know, Tarna can't fight them the same way each time, because, some can fly, some have fire, one has like poison skin, and so each one poses a really different challenge for Tarna, and we thought this will be super fun, right? Like, we can have some where she's in water, we can have some where she's flying on Avis, which, Avis is my favorite character, so I'm gonna like not include Avis in every chance I get. So I think one of the other things I did was really make Avis a lot more he has more of a personality in this, in the way that I think like a loyal steed or dog, because I think Avis is super cool. So there were a few scenes where we were like, oh, do we hurt Avis? And I'm like, no, Avis is sacred. We spare Avis. Avis never gets hurt. Like, and for those who don't know, it's the flying creature that Tarna flies on. So yeah, I love Avis.
Excellent. The thing that I've been drawn to all of your writing is that, I mean, number one, just the range of styles that you tap into. It's the word eclectic comes into mind. It's safe to say. With this, like I say, that balance between that kind of deconstruction and the very action drawn, but then that also implies just how far you want to take the story, and how far you're planning ahead, and what kind of adventures and kind of what timeline you're looking at of how far you're wanting to take the character, because it is born out of a chapter of a film, very small, very contained. You're wanting to extrapolate it into something a lot larger. How far have you gone in terms of how many volumes, how many issues, how far have you roadmapped what you're doing with Tarna?
We've roadmapped 6 issues, and then within those 6 issues, we kind of see elements of the universe that will be explored outside of Tarna. So kind of one of the things we're doing is working to connect all of the heavy metal books. So there's kind of like a heavy metal universe. And then some of those characters that we see within the Tarna issues kind of will get their own issues, or things that we explore outside of Tarna as well. So it's pretty big in terms of, again, we're dealing with like a character that has thousands of planets within one universe, but then also there's other universes. So it's pretty big. And I think that's a lot of fun, being able to then pick up the threads of Tarna in other issues, or the characters we see in Tarna in other series as well. Now,
I mean, the actual the story when it came in the film, I mean, I know it's based on the Mobius strip, which name kind of escapes me. I'm wondering how much you're drawing from that for your story, or is it literally coming all out of your extrapolating from your brain and just going ahead forward? How far, what have you been drawing from to take the story forward?
I mean, definitely drawing some of the design elements. Like I would say, it's a weird thing to design a whole bunch of planets and try to think about the ways that like these planets might not operate in the way that our planet does. Like, how does gravity or water or something work different on this other planet, which has been, I mean, really fun, but also I think the biggest challenge, because it's like you have to think in a way that I haven't normally. And a lot of that world building, pulling from somebody like Mobius, who was incredibly creative, and just having books of that artwork open to be like, how did he just draw a city that you knew was a city, but it doesn't actually look like any city we've ever seen before? So really trying to pull from those elements of just really crazy design features and build something really new that maybe we've never seen before.
Cool. Which then kind of begs the question, obviously comics are a collaborative effort. What has Pat Zercher brought to the project? What's the conversations been like? What story elements has he brought in? And how's it evolved, that original pitch, from seeing what he's brought to the page?
Yeah, I mean, it's great being able to work with somebody that you just really trust to be an incredible storyteller. Patch is somebody that's been in the industry for a long time, so it's it's really nice to be able to reach out and be like, hey, I had this idea for like giant monsters, but Patch is going to be drawing them, I want to make sure that you included this conversation of like, what are their powers? What do they look like? What's the scale compared to Tarna? So getting to have those kinds of conversations, I think, is really helpful, because then you can go back to the scripting process and be like, okay, now I have a good idea of how we can make this work with the artist. So it's kind of like fitting in the puzzle pieces as you go. And I really don't think we could do that without Patch coming in and saying like, what if this monster had this cool poison skin that did X, Y, and Z? And it's like, that's amazing. So, I don't know that I would have thought of that. So absolutely, Patch really helped develop where the story's going, what these characters look like, what the environments look like, being able to build cities or species that we've just never seen before. I come up with some ideas, but then, you see Patch run them and it's like, whoa, like, that's mind-blowing and awesome. And it kind of, I think it feeds off of the other, right? Like, he comes up with something really cool and that gives me an idea for something, which gives him an idea. It's really, it's nice to have that kind of collaborative process on the back end.
I think with most comic artists, so long as it's not involving horses, a lot of city backgrounds, right, and period vehicles or weapons, I think from there it's just anything. It just keeps going.
Right.
The other thing I'm drawn to as well, and I'll bring up another the pages again. The color work that's been done by Marcello is just absolutely stunning.
The color work here is actually Jessica Colleen on the first two issues.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry.
No. Thank you very much indeed for correcting me. Because I mean, what I was about to say, certainly from just from what I was seeing from the original page, and if we could just bring this up so everyone could, it would just go full screen so everyone could see it. It's definitely drawing from the epic and drawing from the cosmic, and that's what I was seeing from the colors. But okay, so how is the creative team evolving moving forward? Because like I say, I was under the impression that Marcello was doing the colors for the series.
Yeah, so the first two issues are Patrick Zercher, and then there are actually every two issues are kind of like a set. So there's a new artist on issues 3 and 4, and then another artist on issues 5 and 6. So
how's that kind of works then? Because obviously it's a different team, it's a different energy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really fun because we get to, again, have 3 people that are developing really cool elements for the universe. And I know at least, I don't think all of the artists have been announced yet, but at least for issues like, between issues 4 and 5, there are some carryover elements. So like getting to see threads where one artist is designing something that another artist is kind of running with other elements. It's definitely unlike anything that I've done before, but the cool thing is getting to see, like, we now have a pretty giant team of people working on the book, and that just means more awesome ideas and more elements, I think, to these worlds that we're trying to create to make it really unique and cosmic.
Yeah. It also helps as well when you've got a rather good editor keeping things in line as well and keeping everyone on track as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Something that I've been catching up with a couple of people over the course of the summer, and certainly the slightly the newer breed, they appreciate the multimedia aspect, and they understand that there are other elements to just reading a comic. I have to ask, what would be on the Spotify list for Tarna the Last Akari?
I love the original soundtrack. That is... It's really good. Man, if I had to build a new one, that might have to like be something that I do at some point. But to be quite honest, I like the original so much that I would be like messing with something that's already really good. I did listen to the original soundtrack a lot while writing this, and that was good inspiration music.
Excellent stuff. You've got the books lined up. What's the kind of release schedule of The Last Akarian? What is it, monthly? How's this book coming out? Yeah,
it's monthly. So the first issue comes out next Wednesday. Was it the 12th? No, it's today the 11th. I don't even know what day. Well,
Oh yeah, oh, trust me, this is 2020. What a fantastic decade it's been. The time is ethereal. It's ethereal.
it's
It's a 60.
weird. We're like in a black hole or something. Yeah, so whatever Wednesday is, that's when the first book comes out, and then it's monthly from there.
Cool. So that'll be the 16th if you want to go and check out Tana, the Last Takarian. This is a work that's come from the pages of Heavy Metal and from the original film. Are there any other Heavy Metal aspects or Heavy Metal characters that you would like to have a crack at? Considering, like I say, eclectic is definitely in your CV, so you can pick from any of the aspects of Heavy Metal. Where would you like to go?
So I mean, I kind of got my favorite one right off the bat, which is nice, but I also love Urkis, who does appear in the Tarna series. Urkis is the green guy that's, you know, the big baddie in the actual movie. He does appear in our story, but I actually just really enjoyed writing this villain, which, I mean, he's horrible, but it's really fascinating because, you know, this is somebody that was taken over by Tarna's kind of opposite, Keiko, this kind of like godlike entity of chaos, instead of, you know, Tarna, who is light and good. And he has been transformed into like this agent of chaos. And I have really enjoyed writing this villain that, while Tarna is like almost all empathy, Urkis is completely the opposite, like just really horrible. And watching him command an entire army, the artists have brought him to life amazing, but I would really enjoy doing more with Urkis.
That'd be cool. Right. So when I talked about the other things that you've got kind of on the fire, when I kind of talked to you when we were kind of getting the interview set up, is a book which is absolutely blowing me away. So I'd like to talk a little bit about Red Atlantis, if you wouldn't mind. This is a book that's come from Aftershock. It's creator owned, art by Robert Curry, colors by Roche, letters by Troy Pateri. Right. I can imagine there are a number of touchstones which I can go to when it comes to describing this, and all of them from the 1980s. Oddly enough, maybe it's just my age. I don't know. But what is your elevator pitch for this particular book? Because it has a very 80s vibe to it.
So I think actually the coolest thing about this book, I didn't create this book. This book was created by somebody named Jan Newman. Jan was a Russian spy who has defected to the US and currently still works in intelligence services here in the US. So this story was actually created based on his experiences. And you can go and read his life story online, which I encourage you to do because it's incredible. So after defecting to the US, this story, and I think a couple others that he's been writing, a lot of them really pull from his experience in intelligence services, which is wild and amazing. And getting to add those elements into a book about spies is really cool. So I think we've probably heard a lot of the history behind things like MK Ultra, things about like mind control or drug experimentations, and Russia had their own version of this where they were trying to solidify something like mind control. So this, pulling from a lot of the history that Jan has provided the team with, we are watching a young girl named Miriam who was sent to the US after her parents died in Russia. She was, and she's kind of figuring out who her parents were much later in life. They were actually scientists for Russia that helped develop these mind control programs. And she kind of starts to realize that they may have given her the same programming that some of these Russian agents had. So she might have powers of her own.
Okay, I'll say Firestarter. I'll say there's a strong Terminator vibe, certainly in issue 2. There is that kind of that action, 80s action kind of vibe to the thing. I'm really curious as to what your touchstones were when it came to writing the story. Obviously, like you say, you had the original, the draft, as it were, the kind of the framework to build on. But what were your own kind of touchstones when it comes to putting this book together?
I think you're listing a lot of my favorite movies, 80s action movies. Terminator is one of my favorite movies. You know, I did go and watch a lot of spy movies, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, you know, things like that to kind of just get a feel for it. The other thing I did was honestly talk to Jan quite a bit about what it was like to be in the intelligence services in Russia, which is obviously not my experience personally. So getting to kind of pull from that. Another thing, which is like a really cool touchstone to get to do, is talk to Jan about how a Russian spy is trained to fight, which is really cool. Like I am a trained fighter, but in Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. And so I initially started writing fight scenes based on like what I know. And Jan just called me one day and he was like, "That's not how we fight." And I was like, "Okay, well, like elaborate." And he's like, "You want to get on like a Zoom call with me and my wife and we'll like show you some moves." I was like,
wow.
Absolutely. Even if not for the book, just like, I want to be trained like a spy. Like, this sounds cool. So getting to work really collaboratively with him to like add in elements of, at some point we do have characters speaking Russian and catchphrases that, you know, that Jan has brought in, things that, again, I would not know, that are really cool. Things about like the Russian spies are trained to use everything around them. So like in this first scene where we have the character Sasha coming to interact with the FBI agents, like I think I initially had him doing some cool like martial arts moves and they were like, "Nope, he's got to like," we had him throw coffee. He's like using their items against them. So it's this very clever way of thinking that, you know, clearly Jan has been trained to do this. And it was really fascinating to get to listen to that and then find ways to really embed that in the story that we were telling.
That's really cool. We have an eclectic audience, as it happens. Indeed, someone of note joining us. Nigel Parkinson's here. Hello there, Nigel. How the devil are you, sir? My colorist Nika was from the Soviet Union in the 80s, so I'm going to point her towards this. So yeah, there we go. Certainly we could go in that direction. It's a very, when it comes to the books that you have been bringing out, like I say, there is a real spectrum of the kind of age ranges that you're aiming for. There's different styles, different tones, whatever. This is very much a teen plus. This is very much a violent book, but it's violence which is really born from the story. It's very justified. It comes from a real kind of energetic place. How far did you want to push this book? Like I say, I was drawing when I was reading it, I was very much sensing those 80s action movie overtones, and like you say, those kind of 70s and 80s spy movies. But those were kind of bombastic, and they threw a lot of the red kind of paste at the screen, as it were. How far did you want to go with this particular book?
So I think one of the cool things is, I mean, what Jan has created is a really extensive universe for Red Atlantis. This is huge. In some ways, I would think of these first 5 issues that we've done as almost a prequel to how extensive this universe is and gets to be. So, I mean, yes, Jan and I have definitely talked about, you know, continuing it, doing more with it. He has more. And Miriam's story, as you'll see as we get through to issue 5, it's almost like it's just beginning. Like there is, I would say these first 5 issues, the first arc is like Miriam really finding out who she is. And a lot of it is unknown to her. She had no idea her parents were scientists for Russia. And, you know, she's questioning like, what was their purpose? Were they helping Russians do something terrible? Or did they sacrifice themselves to stop something? So, she's kind of finding her place in all of it. And I really like the arc of somebody that starts out as like a student. Day one, we see her kind of going to class and being a really good journalism student. And by the end of this, she is a wildly different character. And it reminds me a little bit of something like Unforgiven, which, is one of my favorite movies, because you just take this person that's like never killed before, but is a little pompous. And by the end, when you figure out what it's like to actually kill somebody and what that takes, like you have this really extensive character arc that I think you see in this person's actions. And I very much see that with Miriam too, where she, as her powers develop, she gets closer and closer to this edge. And it's kind of like, is she going to jump off of this and be a completely different person? Or is she going to retain the characteristics of the person we met in issue 1, who was a student, hard worker, wanted to be a journalist, and what is she going to look like at the end of these at the end of this arc? So I really enjoyed getting the chance to write about Miriam.
Cool. I mean, certainly with that character, that had the very similar frustrations that I usually get with the action movie genre, which is the one which is being told and almost shown, well, is being shown what's going on, and just that's crazy, and it's taking so long for the penny to drop. But when it does, it drops in a huge fashion. So I've read the first 2 issues, and what we're kind of seeing from the potential of Miriam is something which is exciting to kind of explore and develop. I'm curious as to how far you feel you want to develop that straight off the bat. How powerful do you want to get within the first 4 or 5 issues?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on something that I think is interesting about Miriam, which is we're not really seeing her make her own decisions. Like, there's a lot of people that are saying, whether it's the FBI agents, whether it's Sasha, there's a lot of people saying, here's what we need to go do. You're along for the ride. So, I mean, not to spoil things, but I do want to see her have a chance to come into her own and finally say, here's what I'm going to do about all of this. And I think that's an important moment for her, which is like kind of getting swept up into something that
you're wanting the Sarah Connor from Terminator 3 and 4 a little bit earlier.
Yeah, but I think Miriam needs to earn it a little bit. So, getting swept up and listening to Sasha in some of these life or death moments, I don't think is a bad thing, given that he knows, and this is also going to be the person that's going to, I think in a lot of cases, help pull her back from that ledge. Make sure she isn't using her powers for something bad. And what are those powers? Like, how do they actually operate? Are they the same as other agents that we are seeing from the Red Atlantis universe, or is she something a little bit different? And that's something that she needs to explore. But it's almost like multiple crises for her. It's like, who were my parents? Do I have living relatives? Am I Russian or American? And she has basically 2 countries that she's caught between. Like, the Americans want to catch her because they think she's involved in something, and the Russians are, as we see, having some kind of crazy mind control abilities. So she's really stuck in this like weird space of who she's going to be. And I think all of it is just lending to the ability for Miriam to, at the end of this, be like, you know what? I'm just going to tell you what I am, who I am, and what I'm going to do. And that's how it's going to be now, which I quite like.
I mean, it's very difficult to see a commonality to your stories because, like we said, there is an eclectic sense of story and tone to your work, which is exciting because there's a quality control there, which is great, and the writing is of high quality, but the different story types are just all over the place. But what I see as a commonality, perhaps, and please shout me down wrong if I've misread this, is there is that sense, and it's really strong with Red Atlantis, of the male characters in the story wanting to drive the story in one direction, and a strong female character standing there almost like the tree in the wind. So no, I'm going to take control of my life. I'm going to take control of my destiny and my impetus moving forward. And I think a good example of that is a Man Among Ye, which you brought out. So I'm seeing that as a definite thread or a commonality. Am I hitting the right point there? Is that something that drives you as a writer?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I had actually the director of my dissertation in graduate school used to tell me that we write about things that we don't understand, because those are things that we're constantly trying to work out. So I mean, I definitely think for me, one of the things that has emerged as well is identity and emerging identity. So, you know, Miriam has this chance to change her identity, to shape it, and everyone around her is trying to shape it. So it kind of becomes this like, I'm going to shape this on my own. And I think the same thing with A Man Among Ye. You know, I not so much Anne, but maybe Mary is really having this like, what is my identity you're going to be moving forward, having the influences of people like her father and Jack Rackham and these different people in her life. And is Mary ultimately going to be like, screw all of you, I'm going to make my own decisions, or things like that? And I am interested in emerging identity, and maybe not just for female characters. I'm doing a book right now with Peter Krause that actually has an all-male cast, but the identity issues actually stem from religion. So our protagonist is a Jewish man in the 1930s, and that is interesting to explore as well. So just kind of trying to come at identity from a lot of different angles. So I know identity is like a huge, broad category, but
where's that coming from? When's that coming down the line? Because I'm a Peter Krause fan, so I'm curious.
Okay. Yeah, 2021. I don't think we have a set release date, but it shouldn't be too far into 2021. And that is, yeah. And I mean, writing Harley Quinn, I mean, there's a lot of characters in the DC universe that I think have like an identity crisis, but Harley, I mean, talk about,
you see,
somebody.
I do love it when the people I'm interviewing spot my segues coming up fucking mile away. So yes, when it comes to characters which, when it comes to characters which are very much determining their own identity, Harley is definitely up there. She's somebody who has been defined by so many other people, including the Joker, including her own relationships or other relationships with the other characters in the DC universe. She's somebody that has, when it first started, and I kind of brought this up with James Tynan when he was talking about Punchline, because that's a character that is out of the gate is defining who she is. Harley isn't. Harley was somebody that has been appropriated, not only on the pages of comics, but also in pop culture as well, by cosplayers, by by pop culture in general. She's somebody who has never had a real sense of her own destiny. It's only in the recent years where she's just put a flag in the sand and gone, okay, I've had enough of this shit.
Right.
This is who I am. Is that where we're going with the Harley Quinn future state? Because we are talking, obviously, an extrapolated version of the character.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I would say we're at the point where we've gotten a lot of Harley content up to this point that's, you know, all about who am I post Joker. And so now I think we're over that hurdle as well. Like now we are post Joker, and what does that look like? You know, it's not Birds of Prey. It's not a group story. It's Harley Quinn. And I mean, I think that has been a lot of fun because I want to pit her against people that maybe a little like Tarna really push her. So how do we solve a problem that can't be smashed? And I mean, of course, we want the smashing because she's got a baseball bat and it's super fun. But she's also, I think, one of the smartest people in the room. Like, we're talking about somebody with multiple degrees. She's got a doctorate degree. Like,
that kind of it not only gets forgotten, but also just in her kind of the way that she's expressed and the language she uses. It's almost like she deliberately dumbs herself down to be kind of underestimated.
And I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think that's a weapon, right? Like if somebody doesn't know how smart and clever you can be, they're going to underestimate you, and then she can take advantage of it, which was a lot of fun to play with in Future State, to pit her against other people like Jonathan Crane that are in their own right pretty smart, but their biggest flaw is underestimating a character like Harley Quinn. They think, well, if we take away her baseball bat, she can't hurt us. But that's when she kind of gets to shine. Like, she is going to toy with you. She's going to play with you. She's 10 steps ahead of other people in the room. She's kind of got things mapped out, and getting to crush the egos of people like Jonathan Crane or Roman Sionis is just wonderful. I love that. Like, that's a lot of fun. And then in the Harley ongoing, we're kind of keeping with that as well. We've pitted her against some pretty big people in Gotham. So while we have this Harley that you can kind of see in the Tynan series, somebody that's developing a little bit of a closer relationship with the Bat family in Gotham. This is somebody that's kind of shown up at the last minute to maybe be a good guy. But what does that relationship look like post-Joker War is kind of the question we want to ask. And, how do we then navigate a character that has been really good at following somebody else's lead, whether it's Suicide Squad or Birds of Prey? Like, there's always kind of been this group element. So now she's seeing the Bat family, and it's like, what does that do for Harley Quinn? Does Harley want to be Bat Quinn? Or does she still find a way to really hone that independence in a new way? Because this is her first time really steadily back in Gotham in a while. So leaving Coney Island and then coming back to kind of remake a life in Gotham. The last time she was living in Gotham, she was maybe not the hero that she wants to be or try to be. So in our version, she's got a lot to make up for. There are a lot of apologies to dole out, but I think it's also just going to be a lot of fun. Artist Riley Rossmo on the ongoing. I mean, every time he turns in a page, I think we're all like, that's my favorite page. I know I've said that 30 times already, but it's so good. She's so expressive that Riley's designs for her, like, we've got a new costume for Harley. And just her facial expressions. I think at some point Riley had done up this big giant page of just Harley faces. And I was like, I just want entire scenes where Harley is just reacting to nonsense, because she does such amazing facial expressions. So yeah, I'm very excited about that.
I mean, I have a very strange personal relationship with Harley Quinn, because the character hasn't, for me, been properly nailed down. I think it's just too much like capturing gas in a bottle. Because we have the kind of the version that we saw in Heroes in Crisis, where she's this kind of, she's in the daylight, she's mixing with the heroes, she's kind of, there's the relationship she has with other characters in the DCU. Then you have Stepan Zedek's take in Harleen. So, I mean, admittedly, it's great that you can kind of come at this character from so many different directions. But I find it very difficult to nail that character down. And then we have the animated series, which is just all swears and hitting things and whatever. And it's a lot of fun. But I think nobody has yet really kind of got a real concrete sense of who she is. And I'm just wondering if you actually see that perhaps as a strength or a weakness, in terms of when you're, as a writer, kind of sort of like tackling Harley Quinn, because where the hell do you start?
Yeah, I mean, one of the cool things is, I think, getting to pull from amazing things that, like, Jimmy Palmiotti, Amanda Conner, Sam Humphries, Paul Dini, everything that they have given to this character makes the character that I'm having so much fun writing. And I don't want to lose those elements. I really want to, I've got some pretty giant steps I'm filling, walking behind. So that, I mean, I think that's really cool. One of the things that I've tried to do is bring a little bit more of what do I like about the character. And for me, it's seeing somebody that, I mean, yeah, this is projecting, like, I just got my doctorate. So watching somebody that has gone through this amazing path to be a doctor and a psychologist, and then kind of has this fall because she falls in love with Joker and what that does, and this kind of search for identity. And one of my favorite things about Harley, and I don't know that it's a positive in general, but Harley, I think, is actually really sad. She's been through a lot of trauma, being with Joker, the things that she's done, the things that she has seen. This is somebody that I think is actually incredibly sad. And I think sometimes the funniest people are actually the most sad. And so, like, maybe I'm bringing a lot of millennial angst to this character, but she's going to be a bit dark here. Like, I think we've seen a lot of really bright portrayals of her, and I absolutely love those. But Gotham is a really dark place. And now you're bringing that kind of, the person that we've seen on Coney Island, bringing her back to Gotham where a lot of this trauma happened, not to mention what Punchline did to her in the main Batman series. This is not going to be forgotten. Like, it is built into her design with Riley that, this is something Harley doesn't want to look at. She doesn't want to see the scar, so she's intentionally covering it with the costume that she wears every day. So trying to find her place in a city that has pretty wildly changed, having made the decision that she was going to go after Joker in Joker War and do something that she thinks Batman couldn't do. I think we are kind of like we were just saying with Miriam, we're seeing a character who just chose to make a lot of decisions. And now we're kind of writing what's the fallout of those decisions? How do those play out for Harley and the people around her? And kind of finding her new purpose in Gotham.
Talking about the relationships with the other characters of the MCU, we'll skip over Poison Ivy for if anything, because I think that relationship is being explored in various other aspects of what Harley Quinn's doing. But I mean, the cover for issue 2 speaks volumes about what you're wanting to do with it. I mean, bringing Black Mask is this terrifying view of Black Mask, the issue of cover of issue 2. I mean, what were the relationships which interested you the most about when, like you say, you're wanting to define, or you're wanting to explore what Harley Quinn is after all of the fallout of certainly of Joker War and moving forward? But that then involves the other roster of characters. It's interesting that you're mentioning Scarecrow, because that's an interesting dynamic. Like I say, two very well educated, two very bright people that have put on makeup and are staking their claim. But that's pretty much also what we're getting with Black Mask as well, who isn't a thick character by any stretch of the imagination.
Yes, I really liked kind of having these two as her main, almost caught between them in the Future State issues, because I think you have two people that, at least because Future State takes place 5 years into the future, when our character Magistrate has kind of come in and really put together this program that's very anti-mask. You have one character, Jonathan Crane, who has given up the mask and decided, I'm going to be a lapdog for the Magistrate. And then you have Roman Sionis that's gone the opposite direction. He's taking his mask, manufacturing it, and passing it out to everyone on the street saying, let's have chaos. His is, I think, more targeted chaos than just like generally smashing stores and things. Like, he has a plan and targets, but still he's very anti-Magistrate. He didn't want to join that. And then you have Harley, who I think is caught in the middle of this like mask, no mask, good guy, bad guy debate. And I think having her between these two characters was really symbolic of where we're about to go with Harley, between this good guy, bad guy kind of dynamic. And also, as we saw in Joker War, her relationship with Batman has slightly changed a little bit. It is slightly more amicable than I think we've really seen before, which I love. I love this idea that Harley gets to be kind of more playful with Batman.
If anything, she's taken kind of the Catwoman role.
Yeah, a little bit. And, Catwoman is somebody that we're interested in seeing her interact with, like another character that's played with this line between good and bad. And what does that mean in Gotham? Like, can you be fully redeemed? And, our main villains that we're going to see in the ongoing in March are people that have firmly taken the stance of like, people can't change, which maybe it's true. And then, the other stance is like, well, people can change, but Harley Quinn can't. So like, how does she take to being in the public eye, which we've kind of seen a little bit more with Punchline being very in the public eye as this trial is going on. The Punchline one-shot that came out kind of explored that a lot more. These are things that will all play into Harley Quinn moving back to Gotham. Like, will people seek her out and be like, hey, you owe me for this one thing that you did that was really horrible, which she's done a lot of horrible things. So like, you know, how do we deal with her past while still allowing her to push forward and find a purpose? And I think one of the things I said initially to the editor when we first started working on this was like, imagine My Name is Earl, but with Harley Quinn in Gotham. So yeah, it's different. It's funny. But again, I think Harley is not able to run from some of that trauma in the past. And I don't think she should be able to run from it. I think here we have to deal with it. We have to confront it. And Harley is finally ready to confront all of it. It's all on the table. So it's one of my, I think it's one of my favorite things I've ever written. Riley's doing an incredible job. Simone DeMeo, who has done the Future State issues, has set us up really nicely for the ongoing in March.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a gorgeous looking book. I mean, like I say, yeah, let's bring up the character design again. What Simone's done there with Harley is just amazing. I'm curious about Future State and when that actually kind of came onto your radar, considering that we have had a number of books cancelled. DC in the wake of pandemic and in the reshaping of what it's doing has pared down a lot of titles, but to then bring this huge future state concept to the table. How long has Future State been kind of like on the cards? When did you start working on it?
Somewhere in March or April, I think we started working on this. Yeah, so this has been, it's been in the works for a while. January, February is when the 2 future states hit. And then I think it's towards the end of March, the ongoing. And we started the ongoing not long after Future State. So I think I had turned in 2 scripts for Future State, let's say April. And then by like May, we were kind of rolling on the ongoing series.
That's interesting, because the books that we're talking about, they're very much they're very much talking about the reaction to a major event. To define a character, to define a universe, to define your own place in a universe, and I find that interesting in the background of 2020 and pandemic. How do you feel that perhaps your writing has evolved or has changed in the wake of 2020?
I mean, I think in a literal sense, there's a lot of, changed spaces. I'm not leaving the house, so pretty chained to a desk. So I think my output has actually gotten higher just because, there is no concert. Like
very few when you take the distractions away.
Yeah.
Like the ability to go for a walk.
Yeah, I mean, I run every day. I wear like my little mask and stuff. So I do some of that, but it's become very scheduled to like get up, get the coffee, start writing, take a break to go for a run, come back and just write. So yeah, I mean, I some of it is definitely taking longer. I mean, I know we probably all have days where like the anxiety is at an 11. So there are definitely days where it's like today the output is just not working, and trying to be a little easier on myself to not push in those moments and just kind of let myself work when I'm able. And those are things we're still learning and working on. But
sure. Well, I mean, we've got a question. We've been taking questions, obviously, from the Q&A, and it's great that everyone's watching. Thank you very much indeed for taking part, everyone. Droof Horror Arts. Now, this is someone from Mexico. Hello there. Welcome along. Greetings. Thanks for watching. We'll kind of take this question on a craft level, as in the question is how you decide the scenarios, Stephanie Phillips. But I'm guessing the question would be, what is your writing process? How do you put your stories together?
Yeah, my process is I like to do a lot of handwritten work. So I like like colored markers and big things of paper because I'm very visual and like hands-on. So, I mean, at some point when I was plotting something that was pretty large, I actually had these like sheets of construction paper, and I was just kind of going from one to the next of like I had these pieces of things that needed to happen. So I was kind of filling them in, like each card was an issue. And I mean, that helps with something that's a lot longer. For other things, you know, it's nice to have an editor that you can also bounce ideas with, or, you know, Riley, who I'm doing the ongoing series of Harley with. Riley and I talk almost every day about new plot points and elements, so it is extremely collaborative, and that's something that I think helps fill in pieces and give structure and shape to stories, as well as being able to like talk through things and be like, here's a cool idea, here's a scene. Like, I mean, Riley and I have all these scenes that we're like, this is really cool, it'd be so much fun to do this, but then it's about finding fits and things for that. So it's a little like building a puzzle. And I like puzzles, so it's definitely a good job for me. So.
Are you somebody that likes to kind of map out long distance in terms of story, or do you like to kind of learn and develop almost from issue to issue,
Right.
and kind of how far do you map it forward? Because I know that when I've spoken to the likes of James Tynan, he says he knows the ending, he knows the final couple of pages, he knows where he's got to get to.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious as to, for yourself, how loose and free you keep your story and your characters. How much do they inform what's going on?
There's, I think, a mix of both. Like, I want the flexibility of being able to change something as we're going, or make adjustments and add things in that I didn't think of. But like with Harley Quinn, like, I know where issue 12 goes. Like, you know, right. we have this pretty, so a little like what James was saying.
I can imagine with a large IP and with a large company like these, you kind of have to have some, okay, we're not going to let you go too far off into the wilderness. Please try and stay on the highway at least.
Yes, so we know where issue 12 wraps, like we know where those kinds of issues are leaving us. We know some major plot points that we're going to hit along the way. I mean, do things change as I'm writing? Absolutely. Like, I would say after writing, 5-6 issues of Harley, I know Harley better now than I did when I wrote the first issue of Future State, and that's going to keep changing. Every time I write Harley, I'm going to know her better, and I think that changes a little bit of how you approach the character. And I mean, it's one of the things I'm loving about having so much real estate with one character is I think the chance to just know somebody is like really good for where we're going. And same with Riley. Like, I mean, the issue he's working on right now, every time I see a page of just the character and how expressive and, just everything from like facial expression to hand expression, like, this character just is coming alive every single page between the two of us. I think we're just really getting to know her. So I like having that real estate, and that's really nice to work with. And I think a change from some of the things I've been writing that are kind of like a 4 or 5 issue arc and done. So that's a thing in my career that I'm really excited that I have that opportunity to do now.
Cool. I mean, when I've spoken to writers, certainly those that have multiple plates spinning, and they like the idea that they can bounce from story to story, to at least then they're not kind of limpet mining onto one story, and they're able to kind of play in the different universes. I can imagine for yourself is slightly refreshing and that kind of relief that you don't necessarily have Harley's voice constantly in the back of your head, because I can imagine that can be a little bit like a virus in some regards. Right. You can go to the other stories and you can come bounce around. Is Harley, because is she one of those characters that just can kind of be in the back of your head? Just
yes,
like you say, you started to know her very well by this point.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've definitely. I don't know, maybe comfortably or not, gotten to see a lot of similarities between myself and the character as well. And getting to add in some of these things that I'm really excited to talk about why getting a PhD would make you want to smash something with a baseball bat. Like, that's, that makes sense to me. So there are definitely ways that I'm really, and I'm not from Long Island, but I'm dropping G's, like, you know, it's in your head all the time. So that's
when you've woken up and you found that you've dyed your hair in your sleep, that's when you start. That's when you start panicking. I think.
Getting a little nervous. Yeah, wake up. How did this happen? Yeah. No, I absolutely adore Harley. I really love the characters we're putting her in connection with, getting to see her interact with my favorite characters in this universe. And I think that's the most fun because Harley is so unique that she's not going to interact with, you know, Catwoman or Solomon Grundy or these characters in the same way that Batman would, because she's Harley Quinn. She's got such a unique perspective on the world. And so she's got a really unique perspective on the outcasts of Gotham. And that's something that I just absolutely love exploring. And, you know, the fact that DC has just really been okay with where we're going with all of this, giving us a lot of creative freedom on it is, I think really exciting for both myself and Riley as well.
That's fantastic. So let's go. I mean, help me out if I'm missing any of them, because you've got a lot on your plate, great, which is fantastic. So we've got Harley Quinn, DC Comics. We've got the Future State issues out at the moment. You've got the ongoing coming. Give us a timetable on that.
That'll be out in March.
That's March. Then we've got Red Atlantis, which is currently ongoing from Aftershock. We've got ourselves another book which I've really enjoyed your work on, on Aftershock, which we haven't gotten around to talk about, which is Descendant, purely because I mean the artwork as well, is just blowing me away for that. Man Among Ye, is that still running from Image?
Yes, it is.
That's still ongoing. What else is currently out there with your name on it?
So I think next month I did an issue of Rick and Morty, like an extended one-shot. Yeah, that'll be Ryan Lee did the artwork for that, and it is I think it's some of the most fun writing I've had because we're working with the Deathstalkers and the character Hemorrhage from the Rick and Morty universe, who just like in that kind of Mad Max post-apocalyptic kind of spinoff. And that has been a ton of fun to work on. I have, let's see, in the spring, a YA book I did with A Wave Blue World that I co-wrote with Dave Johnson.
Wow.
It is my first foray into YA, and that has been really fun. Artwork by Marika, and Dave and I kind of were working on putting the ideas for that one together. So yeah,
I've been so excited by what Wave Blue World are doing. That is such an interesting publisher. What a cool. Yeah, that's great. Okay, that's yeah. So I think probably by next week we'll be announcing some more DC stuff, which is super fun. Oh, the timing of this couldn't have been better, which means we can't talk about it, but watch this space. Watch this space.
Right.
Excellent stuff. And then last but not least, of course, Tana. Out on Wednesday. Do go check it out from the pages and from the screen of Heavy Metal magazine. Like I say, the artwork that I've seen is incredible. The way that you've been describing the character and what you've got plans for. We're talking some, Thor. What else? There's all sorts of characters that I can think of. That kind of real big, bold, bombastic kind of.
A little Silver Surfer-esque.
Yeah, there's the other one. There's the other one. I'm blanking on the name. No, I can't forget. I can't. It's gone. Never mind. But certainly, from what I've seen of it, I'm really looking forward to reading this. It is such an incredible looking book. Thank you very much indeed for coming on and talking to us. It's been an absolute blast. We do have the question from Droof Horror Arts asking, where can people follow you? Now, I know your Twitter, if you want to just tell everyone.
It's at Steph_Smash.
And I'm going to bring that up on screen because at least then everyone can kind of follow and keep an eye on it. At least then I will put that up on the screen, and it looks a little bit like that and that. That's the account that you want to follow. Is it just on Twitter? Where's the best place for people to follow you?
Yeah, that's probably the best. I always forget that there are other social media that I have. So honestly, I think Twitter is the only one I use with any regularity. So
yeah, if you go to MySpace and type in Steph_Smash, that's not going to come up anytime soon. You're
I would
fine.
put you in my top 8 if we could still have a space. I kind of miss that. I really miss the judgmental top 8s. I think some people need to be put back in their place. I'm bringing all for. You touched on a millennial topic here that I'm like, oh, MySpace.
You know what? I think the old social medias need to come back because the new ones aren't really helping us a great deal.
I know.
Yeah, we keep trying to design new ones. Let's just bring the old ones back. Let's, yeah,
Right.
can we have AOL back, please? Let's do it. Maybe. Yeah, we'll leave it there. Stephanie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much indeed for coming on, and congratulations and all the best of luck with all the rest of the titles.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Excellent stuff. So there you go. Do go check out Stephanie's books. Like I say, what she's been putting out for 2020 has been incredible, and 2021 looks like the year is just going to be bigger and better. Fantastic stuff. Right, that's been our incidental episode. Thank you very much indeed for joining us for that. We are back again tomorrow as we have ourselves a pretty cool episode that's going to be taking place tomorrow. We've got ourselves 2 for the price of 1. So hopefully you can join us 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT, as we are going to be joined by Matt Medney, who is the CEO of Heavy Metal Magazine, and also legendary artist Bob Fingerman. He's going to be joining us as well. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT. That's going to be on Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego tomorrow. Thank you so much indeed. Once again, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you thought. Let us know who you'd like to see on future episodes of Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. For myself, Len Sultana, from Stephanie Phillips, take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.